Bonjour YouTube, welcome back to our channel. Today we are back in Versailles and I'm going to be taking you to the grand halls of Crusades. On y va! Got myself some coffee. So let me just tell you something, guys. Today I'm alone because Sinan had some things for work. So he had to go to work today. And we booked this tour earlier, much earlier. Couldn't cancel it, and I don't want to miss this chance because it's a beautiful, beautiful part of Versailles. I just wanted to ask also one thing, that if you like the video or if you don't like it or if you have anything to share, please comment because it helps our videos get suggested to more people. And yeah, it's strange without Sinan, you know, going to the visits by yourself. And I really wanted him to see these halls because these halls are usually closed, but I didn't want to miss this chance because this was the first time I saw them open these halls for this year. So it's a little bit rare. I don't know why they open them so rarely, but let's go and have a look. Versailles is as beautiful as always, as ever, even though it's cold and there's no green except like a little bit of grass. You see, the climate here is actually soft. It's lovely. Even when it's winter, we don't really get so much snow. That's one minus, but the positive is that it never gets too cold. So if you're planning to come to France for like a visit in winter or study here or whatever, know that in the region of Île-de-France, the weather is not that bad. It's humid, yeah, but it's soft. So why would we put so much emphasis on Louis-Philippe I in this particular episode and story? Well, you see, as we mentioned in our episode on his private apartments at the Grand Trianon, Louis-Philippe restructured Versailles and turned it from an old royal residence into a museum dedicated to all the glories of France during his reign between 1830 and 1848. The link to that episode is in the first pinned comment of this video. As we walk into this incredible part of Versailles, we should understand why it was created in the first place. After the 3-day-long Second Revolution in France, called Trois Glorieuses, which happened from July 27th to July 29th, 1830, Louis-Philippe became the king of the French, ending the reign of Charles X, who had to abdicate on August 2nd, 1830, at Château de Versailles, in favor of his grandson Henri, who would be Henri V. However, after a week of political debates, Louis-Philippe I, and not Henri V, became the king of the French. Note how his title is no longer the King of France. That's because Louis-Philippe comes from the House of Orléans and not the house that ruled France for centuries, les Bourbons. And his reign was to represent the national sovereignty, the source of the legitimacy of the new monarchy. It was actually Louis-Philippe's father who voted in favor for the execution of Louis XVI following the First Revolution. Naturally, the supporters of the Ancien Régime and ultra-royalists would constantly question his legitimacy, hence why Louis-Philippe sought to win the favor of the church and the ancient nobility by glorifying the era of the Crusades. He hired the architect Frédéric Neveu for the construction of rooms dedicated to this period to satisfy them. More than 135 paintings were commissioned from about 60 artists, and in 1843, 5 grand halls of the Crusades opened to the public. However, they would never be finished. These halls are a tribute from Louis-Philippe to the legitimist immemorial nobility. This old sword nobility was the soul of the Crusades, who went to deliver the tomb of Christ to Jerusalem from the end of the 11th to the end of the 13th centuries, ensuring the security of pilgrimage routes since that time. Moving from one room to the other, we follow the story of the 8 main Crusades, between the end of the 11th and 13th century, as well as that of the main episodes of the history of the Knights of Saint Jean of Jerusalem, from their departure from the Holy Land until their installation on the island of Malta in the 16th century. The true realization of this project was set in stone after the gift made to Louis-Philippe by Sultan of the Ottoman Empire Mahmud II of the Rhodes door in 1836. Arriving in France the following year, the Rhodes door served as a model for the entire decor of the halls of the Crusades. It comes from the hospital of the Order of Knights of Saint Jean de Jerusalem that was first founded in the middle of the 11th century in the Holy Land to welcome pilgrims. The order then developed a military activity responsible for ensuring the safety of pilgrims on the land and the sea pilgrimage routes to the Holy Land. Following several military setbacks, the order retreated to Acre, then to Cyprus, and finally to Rhodes in the early 14th century, after being driven from the Holy Land in 1291, following the capture of Saint-Jean d'Acre, which ended the Crusades. The door itself is carved in the last Gothic style and dates to 1512. It bears a statuette of Saint Jean Baptiste, patron saint of the order. The 125 paintings in place are done by Delacroix, Granet, Blondel, Larivière, Schnetz, Signol, Odier, and others. Speaking of Delacroix, his painting Capture of Constantinople by the Crusaders, April 12, 1204, is a copy done by Charles de Serres on behalf of the Ministry of Fine Arts. The original was first installed here in 1841, then exposed at many art exhibitions and museums, including the Louvre, where it was finally kept for good in 1885. With these rooms, Louis-Philippe aimed to glorify the holy wars in the history of France, and highlighted the nobility and the clergy. In addition, we see representations of emblematic characters such as Saint Louis and Richard Coeur de Lion, sublimated by the codes of Romantic painting. There are also moments of looting, chaos, violence representative of this artistic movement. The artist also dove into Orientalism, a movement that was rather popular at the same time as the Middle East was being explored by the Europeans. The last halls of the Crusades are more focused on the heroism and fury of the Crusaders, rather than the chronology of the events. Started in 1837, the work on these halls was completed in several stages. The large hall in 1842, opening of all of the rooms was held in May 1843, and the completion of the decorative painting work in 1846. But in February of 1848, at the fall of Louis-Philippe's regime, several paintings were still missing. A new revolution that year brought the end of the regime of Louis-Philippe, the last king of the French history, and paved the way for the Second Republic. There was a concert in the opera nearby, in the Royal Opera, so we had to go through like crowds of people who were drinking champagne. I was gonna say that it's a bit strange to film without Sinan, because without Sinan I'm like can't really move around much. And I thought this was a really cool visit because, first of all, if you want to learn more about Crusades, not in really directly historic way, but in a sense how it was represented in this museum, then it's definitely a place to go to and do the visit, but you gotta go with a guide. I don't think it's open for normal visits, but at the same time it's really beautiful inside there. It's really, really beautiful, so highly recommend it. And before I freeze myself, I'm gonna go home, and I just wanted to thank you guys for joining us, and if you like this episode, let us know in the comments, and until the next week, au revoir.